Hare Krishna. I welcome all of you to our Bhagavad Gita session. We are on chapter 8. The objective of this class is to enable reading of the shlok, to understand the meaning of the shlok, and to help understand the basic philosophy of Gita. Chapter 8 is called Attaining the Supreme. Right? As we all know, Bhagavad Gita has got 18 chapters and is divided into 3 parts. The first to 6th chapter is one part, 7th to 12th chapter is second part, and 13th to 18th can be called as a third part. Right? The first part, 1 to 6, talks about Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, and uh, Dhyan Yoga. These are the 3 things which is mainly talked about in the first 6 chapters. The last chapter from 13 to 18 mainly talks about the Gyan Yoga. And 7th to 12th chapter is the confidential part of Gita. It is for about Bhakti Yoga. Now, why it is confidential? Because Krishna reveals himself in this chapter 7 through 12. So it is the confidential part of Gita, and it is called the jewels of Gita. It is the most important part of Gita. So we are on chapter 8, and the chapter is divided into 6 sections. We have already finished the first 2, which is about Lord Krishna answers Arjun's question and art of dying and living. Today we will start with remembering Krishna by Yog Mishra Bhakti, that is 8.9, the 9th shlok of 8th chapter. And then we'll try to finish remembering Krishna by pure Bhakti. Before we go forward with the new shlok, let us see the summary of the last class, what we did in the last class. So the last class started with, the chapter 8 started with Arjun's question. And he asked Krishna about the eight things he asked. What are these eight words or shabd that you spoke in the previous chapter? Well, first is, what is Brahma? And Krishna replied that Brahma is Jeev. It is the soul. It is basically the indestructible transcendental living entity which is separate from the material body. That's Brahma. Then he talked about Adhyatma. What is Adhyatma? And Krishna said it is Swabhav. It is the Jiva has been traveling from millions of years, and the experience that they have is in the impressions of the soul, and because of which we develop our swabhav or sanskar. Why someone behaves like this in one situation and like another way in another situation? It's because of our swabhav. It's because of the sanskar. It's because of the impressions that is also carried on our soul from millions of years. And then Arjuna asks, what is karma? And Krishna explains that whatever activity that we do, of that there is a result of that. There is a fruitive result. So when we are doing work with desire of results, that is the fruitive activities, then because of whatever results that we have expected for, because of which our body gets transmigrated, our soul gets transmigrated to different body, from one body to another. We acquire the second body, the next body, because of the karmas that we have performed in our previous lives, right? So that is the karma, that is action and reaction. Then Adhibhuta. What is Adhibhuta? And Krishna says it is Prakriti. It is the material nature. It is which is constantly changing. And then it asks about what is Adideva. Adideva is basically the Virat Purusha, the universal form of Krishna, which includes everything. All the Devi Devata, all the material, anything which is material, everything gets covered into the Virat Purusha. And then what is Adhigyana, Adhiyagya? And Adhiyagya is very basically the Paramatma, the super soul, which is inside our heart. Yeah, so we have soul, and then we have super soul sitting in each and every living entity, and then Adhiyagya is basically Paramatma. And he says it is me, I, the enjoyer of all sacrifices, the Supreme Lord, who is super soul in all. And this all he answers from third and fourth shlok. And then the last question the last question that Arjuna had asked was, what is Prayana Kala? What is Prayan Kal. Prayan Kala is basically the Kal is time and Prayan is journey. Basically, it's a time of death. And Krishna says, talks about Prayan Kal, and the entire chapter after that is mainly dealing with Prayan Kal. So he says, remembering Krishna at the time of death. And then the next slok talks about remembering Krishna at the time of death. That is, Antakale Chamameva. And Krishna says that at the time of death, when someone exits, when the soul exits the body, it remembers Krishna, then basically, it achieves Krishna. And then he talks about general law of destination after death. So what is the general law for destination after that death? He says that at the time of death, whatever we think of, and that is what we will get that body. And then we talked about King Bharat, who actually thought about deer. He was worried about deer. So what happened? He got a body of deer in the next birth. Yeah. So it all depends upon at the last moment also what we are thinking, that really influences the body that we take, right? If we are too much attached to the your properties, and you're worried about, oh, my this house, my that house, then what is happening? You're going to become a rat in that house, trying to be there. If you're too much worried about the money that you have accumulated, what will happen about my money and all, then you're going to take a body of snake. If you had been sleeping too much, and you are then you are going to take a body of bear, right? If you wear scanty clothes and like to show off your body, then you will get a body of a tree. You'll get a body of the tree. So basically, last thought also depends. It depends. Krishna says that the general law is whatever is in your mind at the last moment, that is what the body you will also acquire. Definitely, karma plays a role in that. Then thinking of Krishna always, and then Krishna says that if you think about me always, then only you can. I mean, in the last moment, what is that? Is the art of dying. What is the art of living? If you want to go to Krishna, then throughout your life, it is not that suddenly at the end you will think that I will think about Krishna and it will come to your mind. It is not possible. It is not possible. Okay, I will put an alarm clock and ask my friend to remind me. That is not possible, because when we are dying, the situation that we are in, it is said that it is like 40,000 scorpions biting us. That is the amount of pain one bears when the soul is coming out, right? And also that it's also described that your throat is full of mucus and other things, and in that pain you will not remember Krishna unless your life, the way you have lived has been Krishna conscious. It means you have been remembering God. You have been remembering simply, you have been remembering, chanting, hearing, and talking and living with Krishna. And then what will happen? At the end, automatically by virtue of Krishna, you will remember Krishna and you will exit your body. And then you can achieve him. And then that is what we actually covered in the last class, right? So now we go to the 9th shlok. This 9th to 13th, this particular section is called Remembering Krishna by Yog Mishrit Bhakti. Yog Mishrit Bhakti. So first is what is Yog Mishrit Bhakti? So we talked about different types of bhakti earlier. We said that the bhakti, when it is bhakti mixed with karma, then it's called karma mixed bhakti. It means you are performing karma, but at the same time you are doing bhakti. Yeah. Now suppose you are 90% you're doing performing karma and 10% bhakti, then it's called karma mishrit bhakti. But if you are performing 90% bhakti and 10% karma, then it is basically then it gets reversed, right? Similarly, it is the Gyan Mishrit Bhakti when it is more of Gyan and Bhakti are mixed, right? And then it is Dhyan, like what we are going to study now is Yog, when Dhyan Yog is with mixed with Bhakti. Yeah, and then in that case, how exactly, what really happens? So Krishna here explains that. Let's read the 9th shlok. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anor Aniyam Sam Anusmaredya Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Kavim Purano Anushasitaram. Anor Aniyam Sam Anusmaredyah. Anur Aniyam Anushmaram Yaha. Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam. Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam. Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. So here Krishna explains that how should one meditate upon me? Yeah, and he is talking about a yog mishra bhakti, right? Someone who is doing yoga and at the same time he's attached to, he's also doing bhakti. Then he says, Kavim. Kavim is what? Kavim means someone, someone. Krishna is someone who knows everything. Krishna is someone who knows everything. In the last chapter, in the 7th chapter, in the 24th slok, we read this slok which says, Vedaham samatitani vartamani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedna kashna. Krishna says, O Arjun, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that had happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but no one knows me, right? So Krishna says he knows everything. What has happened in the past, what is happening now, at the same time, what is going to happen in future. Now, in the 4th chapter, when Krishna talked to Arjuna, and he said, this knowledge, the knowledge of Gita, this is not the first time I'm speaking to you, but before that, many millions of years back, I had actually given this knowledge to Vivaswan, who is the sun god. And from him, it passed on to Manu. And from Manu, it went to Ikshvaku. And from Ikshvaku, it went to the Raja Rishis. And that is with that parampara, the knowledge of Gita actually went down, right? That's what he explained in the 4th chapter. And listening to that, Arjun was very, very surprised. Arjun was very, very surprised. How can, I mean, we both have been together. How is it possible that you spoke Gita some millions of years ago? Huh? Because Vivaswan and Ikshvaku, they are much, much older than you. How is it possible that you spoke Gita to them? And then Krishna explains. What does Krishna says? He says in the 5th shlok, he says, Bahuni me viditani janmani tab charjuna Tanya me ham ved sarvani na tvam vetha parantapa. Krishna says, many, many births, both you and I have passed, but I remember all of them. I remember all my births, but you cannot, because that's the, so Krishna knows Kavim. He's Kavim. So we have to remember Krishna. We have to know that Krishna is the one who knows everything. Anything, even a blade of glass cannot move without Krishna's knowledge, right? So he is Kavim. He is Puranam. Puranam means he's the oldest. Oldest means doesn't mean he's an old person, because Krishna is always and he's always at the age, remains at the age of, his looks always remains the age of 16 years old. He's always like that. He's now, he's always the young boy. His looks, whether he is 125 years old, then also he looks like a young boy. He never gets old. When you say Puranam, it means he's Adi. He's the oldest. So he says, I am the Bij Pradampida. He's the one who has given seeds. He is the seed giver for everything, isn't it? So he's Puranam. He's the oldest. Because of him, he's the Adi Purusha. He's the first, because of which all the things, living entities, has actually come into picture, or whatever we see has come into picture. Then he says, Anushasitaram. Anushasitaram means he's the controller. He's the controller. And what sort of controller? Remember, we talked about in the last chapter, we talked about the divine energy, the material world. He's basically the Maya Adhikshena Prakriti. He controls all the Prakriti. The material nature is completely controlled by him. Anything that is happening, moving, non-moving, everything is controlled by him. So he's the supreme controller. Anor means atom. Anor Aniyam Sam. It means he's the smallest of the smaller. So atom is so small. So imagine how small he could be. Because when we talked about the size of the soul, we talked about that, if you take the tip of one hair, and if that hair tip is divided by 10,000 times, when that particular hair tip is divided into 10,000 times, that is the size of soul. And he's a super soul. He can even enter that soul. So he's a super soul. right? So he's so small. He's the smallest, smaller than the smallest. And then Anusmaradya means remember me as Sarvasya Dhataram. Sarvasya means all. Sarvasya means everything. Dhataram is maintainer. He's the maintainer of everything. Anything and everything is maintained by him. He's the maintainer of everything. The planets, it is now, it is there in the air. It is hanging. How is it there? How is this gravitational force is there? How are they moving? Everything is managed so perfectly. How? He's the maintainer of that. Everything that is happening is because of him. Achintya Rupa. Achintya means inconceivable, Rupam, and his form, the form of Krishna is Achintya, is inconceivable. It's so beautiful, it cannot be described. It is Achintya, it's inconceivable. And Rupam, it's great. And Aditya Varnam, Aditya means sun, Varnam. So he's as luminous like sun. And Tamsa Parastad, and he is beyond the material nature. So that is the meaning of this particular shlok. Let us now read the translation of it. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person.
One should meditate upon the Supreme Person
As the one who knows everything.
as the one who knows everything.
As he who is the oldest.
As he who is the oldest.
Who is the controller.
Who is the controller.
Who is smaller than the smallest.
Who is smaller than the smallest.
Who is the maintainer of everything.
Who is the maintainer of everything.
Who is beyond all material conception.
Who is beyond all material conception.
Who is inconceivable.
Who is inconceivable.
And who is always a person.
Who is always a person.
He is luminous like the sun.
He is luminous like the sun.
And he is transcendental beyond this material nature. Right? So that is what. So we have to meditate on the Supreme Lord. We have to meditate on Krishna, thinking about this characteristics. Right? Now, in Brahma Samhita, Krishna, there's a very, very famous slok which describes Krishna. Advaitam Achyutam Anadi Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Nav Yovanam Cha Vedeshu Adurlabha Atma Bhaktau Govindam Adi Purusham Tamham Bhajami. So he's the Purana Purusham, but still he's the oldest, but he is Nav Yovanam. He's always young. He's always in the youthful form. He's always in the youthful form, right? So now we go to the next shlok, which is 10th. Prayanakale manasachalena.
Prayanakale manasachalena.
Bhaktya yukto yoga balena cheva.
Bhaktya yukta yoga balena cheva.
Bhruvora madhye pranam avesha samyak.
Bhuvor madhye pranam avesha
Satam param purusham upaiti divyam.
Satam param purusham upaiti divyam.
Prayanakale manasachalena.
Prayanakale manasachalena.
Bhaktya yukto yoga balena cheva.
Bhaktya yukto yoga balena cheva.
Bhruvora madhye pranam avesha samyak.
Bhruvor madhye pranam avesha samyak.
Satam param purusham upaiti divyam.
Satam param purusham upaiti divyam.
Now here Krishna says, Prayana Kale. Prayana Kale means at the time of death. Manasa achalena. Manasa is mind. Achal means fix. Fix your consciousness. Fix your mind. Fix your mind. Bhaktya yukto. Bhaktya means devotion. Yukto means totally engaged in devotion. Yog balena. Yoga balena means by the strength of yog. By the strength of yog. Bhruvor madhye. Bhruvor means eyebrows. In madhye is in the center, in the middle of the eyebrows. Pranam avesha samyak. What do you do? We have to bring the life air. He is talking about a yogi. What does a yogi needs to do? He has to bring the pranam. Pranam is the life air. He has to bring it come in the middle of the eyebrows. Yeah, that is a chakra which is there, and he has to there sa tam paramam purusham upaiti divyam, and then he will certainly attain the super personality of Godhead. Then he is, so if during the death, now he is talking about how a yog mishrat bhakta can actually achieve Krishna at the time of death. Yeah, so he says, how is it possible that at the time of death, he has to fix his consciousness and he has to move the life air where in between the eyebrows. And by how it has to move? It has to move by the yog bal. By the yog bal, and then he has to remember totally has to totally engage in the memory of in the Krishna, and then only he can actually achieve the supreme. He'll definitely achieve the supreme personality, right? So let us read the translation. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So this whole process is called Sat Chakra Yoga, and the chakra, the six chakra, the chakra is being talked about is called Agyan Chakra, Agya Chakra, right? Now we go to the next slok. Now to follow this process of Sat Chakra Yoga, what are the requirements? Now Krishna is going to talk about in the 11th slok that to achieve this whole process, to know this, to have this knowledge of Sat Chakra Yoga, what are the requirements? What you need to do? What you need to do to learn this Sat Chakra Yoga? So he says, Yad Aksharam Ved Vido Vadanti.
Yad Aksharam Ved Vido Vadanti.
Vishanti Yad Yattayo Vitaraga.
Vishanti Yad
Yadichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti. Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravakshe. Yad Aksharam Ved Vido Vadanti. Vishanti Yad Yattayo Vitaragaha. Yad Yadichanto Brahmacharya Charanti. Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravakshe. So here he explains the requirements for the Sat Chakra Yoga, to know that. So he says, Yad Aksharam Ved Vido Vadanti. Ved is Vedas, and Vid means to those who know the Veda, the knowledge of the knower of Vedas. Yad Aksharam. What is Akshar? Akshar is basically the Omkara, the syllable Om. Akshar is, what is Akshar? We read about Shar. Shar is temporary, and Akshar is permanent. It cannot be destroyed. So Jiva was called when it's called what is Brahma? Brahma is called basically Jeev. Jeev is Akshara. That's what he has explained in the third shlok, right? So he is saying Yad Akshara. What is this Akshar? It is the syllable Om, Omkara. This Akshara. So Ved Vida Vadanti. Vishanti Yadyate Vitaraga. Vitaraga means you have to have total detachment. Rag means attachment. And you have to Vitaraga means you have to have total detachment. So what are the qualities? What are the requirements? You have to basically chant the Omkara, yeah, and then you have to have the total detachment. Yadichanto Brahmacharya Charanti, and you have to follow Brahmacharya. What do you follow? You follow Brahmacharya. Means you should abstain from sex life. Brahmacharya means you have to have you have to follow a practice, and you have to abstain from sex life. Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravakshe. And then and then I would explain you the process again. So let us read the translation. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkar, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahma. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. So he continues explaining the process in the next slok. But here in this case, here Krishna says that what are the qualities? The first is you have to chant Om. You have to have detachment. You have to follow Brahmacharya. And then where will you achieve? What will you achieve? You will achieve the Brahma Jyoti. You will achieve the what? Brahma Jyoti. That is the Brahma. And what is Brahma Jyoti? It is basically the effulgence of Krishna. It is the effulgence of, when you talked about absolute truth, we said absolute truth can be seen in three forms. One is what is Brahma, then it is Brahma Jyoti, then Paramatmeti and Bhagwan. There are three forms, right? So in this three order we see. So he says that is, and then he says he will now explain the process, and the next slok he explained the process of how he can actually get moksha, salvation. So let's read the next slok. सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य
सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य
मनो हृदि निरुध्य च
मनोहृदेन उद्यच
मूर्धन्याधात्मनः प्राणम्
मनः प्राणम्
अस्थितो योगधारणम्
अशितो योगधारणम्
सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य
सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य
मनो हृदि निरुध्य च मूर्धन्याध्यात्मनः प्राणम् अस्थितो योगधारणम्. So here Krishna says sarva dwarani sanyamya. He says what we need to do, what the yogi needs to do. Sarva dwarani. Sarva means all the gates, all the gates of the body you have to have control. You have to shut it. Sanyam means control. Now we talked about this in the previous chapter. We talked about the human body is made up of how many gates are there in the human body? There are 9 gates in the human body. The gates, which are the gates? We have 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, and our genitals, right? Anus and genitals. These are the 9 gates that we have, right? And through these only we actually absorb, we see things, and we do sense gratification. Yeah, through eyes we see beautiful forms. Through ears we see, we hear the beautiful music, whatever music we want. So all our interaction with the material world is via these 9 gates. Via these 9 gates. And what Krishna says, all these gates has to be totally controlled. Sanyam means control. All these 9 gates have to be totally controlled. It means your eyes have to be totally controlled. All your 9 gates have to be totally controlled. And then what you have to do? Mano hidi nirudhyacha. And man is your mind. What do you have to do with your mind? You have to focus your mind on your hriday. In hriday, what is there? It is super soul is there. So you have to, after controlling all your senses, you have to actually focus your mind on the super soul, and then murdhanyadhatmanah pranam. And pran is the life air. What have you to do? The life air, you have to move the life air towards murdhanya. Murdhanya is towards the head. Yeah. And then you have to establish yourself in yoga, right? So let us read the translation of this shlok. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses, and fixing the mind on the heart, and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Yeah. So he has to do that. And then the previous stroke he talks about, he has to follow, for doing that, he has to follow the 3 things. He has to chant Omkar. He has to basically follow the Brahmacharya, and he has to follow the total detachment. And when all these things are done, then, and if he's constantly practicing that along with full devotion, and his mind is fully engaged in Krishna, is totally engaged in devotion, then he will actually proceed towards salvation. Yeah, that's what we have. This is what he's talking about, how a Yog Mishrit Bhakta can actually get liberation, right? And then he talks about 13. This is the last shlok in this particular series. He says, Om ityekaksharam brahma. Om, 13th. Om ityekaksharam brahma. Vyaharam mam anusmaran. Yah prayati tyajen deham sayati paramam gatim. Om ityekaksharam brahma. Vyaharan mam anusmaran.
Vyaram Amman Anushmaram.
Yah prayati tyaje deham.
Yaprayati Deham
Sayati paramam gatim.
Sayati Paramam.
Now he says very clearly, Om itekshaksharam Brahma. Om is the akshar. It's a so you have to chant the mantra Om, syllable Om, and then Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran. Mam is mind. And think of me, think of Krishna. Anusmaran means remember. Whom you have to remember? You have to remember Mam. Mam is me. Mam means what? Me. Remember Krishna. Even a yogi, he has to remember Krishna. Yah prayati tyajan deham. And by doing so, when he is tyajan deham means when he is leaving this body. Deham tyaj means to leave. What to leave? The body. Sayati paramam gatim. And then he will achieve the supreme abode. Then he will achieve the supreme abode. Now let's read the English translation. After being situated in this yoga practice.
After being situated in this yoga practice.
So in the previous slok, it talked about how what he has to do, right? He has to control all his senses. He has to put his mind focus on the heart, the super soul, and then he has to put the life air towards towards his head. And then what he has to do after being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om.
And vibrating the sacred syllable Om.
The supreme combination of letters.
Supreme combination of letters.
If one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
And one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
And quits his body.
And quits his body.
He will certainly reach the spiritual planets.
He will certainly reach the spiritual.
Right? So this is for the yogi. Krishna has explained how a yogi can actually achieve the spiritual planets. And he explained all the process, right? So this is from Shlok number 9 to 13. Now, in the next section, which is 14 to 16, it is remembering Krishna by pure bhakti. It is for Kevala bhakti, right? So we go to the next Shlok. He says, Ananya cheta satatam.
Ananya cheta satatam.
Yo mam smaranti nityashah.
Yo mam smaranti nityashah.
Tasyaham sulabha partha.
Tasyaham sulabha partha.
Nitya yuktasya yoginah.
Nitya yuktasya yoginah.
Ananya cheta satatam.
Ananya cheta satatam.
Yo mam smaranti nityashah.
Yo mam smaranti nityashah.
Tasyaham sulabha partha.
Tasyaham sulabha partha.
Nitya yuktasya yoginah.
Nitya yuktasya yoginah.
So in this shlok, the most important word is sulabha. Sulabha means sulabh means easily. Now this from here, Krishna starts talking about bhakti yoga. He starts talking about the process of bhakti yoga. So we all know that this whole thing Krishna has explained to Arjun, right? So the word sulabh means easily, easy, most easy. So now Krishna says, so now we have to go back to the why Krishna explained in the previous section about yog mishra bhakti, right? So if you remember in the 6th chapter, it was about dhyana yoga. Yeah, and Krishna explained how a yogi needs to sit and sit at a bit higher, and then he has to keep his body erect, and then he has to go away to a secluded place. He has to put on a kusha grass, and then he has to the way he has to take a position, and then he has to do chanting. He has to basically meditate. So all these things he explained, and then Arjun said, "Oh Krishna, this is very, very difficult." What did Arjun say to that? After listening to Krishna about Dhyana Yoga, Arjun said, "Oh Krishna, this is very, very difficult because controlling chanchalam hi manah Krishna. Mind is very, very chanchal. It is extremely turbulent, and it is controlling the mind is as difficult as controlling the wind." What Arjun said? That controlling the mind is as difficult as controlling the wind. So that is what Arjun said. And Krishna replied to that, "Yes, I agree, but by abhyas and by detachment, one can do it." By abhyas and detachment you can do it. Now the flow is, Krishna explained in the, then what he did, Krishna in the 7th chapter talked about Bhakti Yoga. He introduced everyone to Bhakti Yoga, and he talked about Bhakti Yoga is what? You have to chant the Krishna's name, you have to hear about that. So he talked about the Bhakti Yoga in the 7th chapter, and now in the 8th chapter, Krishna is again talking about the how you can achieve the spiritual planets for a yogi via the process, via the yogic process. He explained that. And then now he's talking about by Bhakti Yoga, how you can do it. And he says that following the Bhakti Yoga process is very, very easy. No requirements of, following all those strenuous thing. It is very, so here he talks about Ananya Cheta Satatam Yo Mam Sparanti Nityasha Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Tasya Aham Sulabha Pasa. Tasya, for them, Aham means I, Sulabha Partha. Partha is Arjun. Oh Arjun, for them I can easily be obtained. How? Ananya Cheta Satatam. Ananya Cheta Satatam. Cheta means consciousness. Cheta means consciousness. Ananya means without any other thoughts. Ananya Cheta Satatam means always. Thinking of me always. Ananya Cheta Satatam means thinking of me always, without any deviation. Without any deviation, thinking of me always. Yo mam smaranti nityasha. Yo, those mam smaranti nityasha. Those who remember me always. Tasyaham sulabha partha. For them, I can easily be obtained nitya yuktasya yogina, because of the constant engagement with me. Yeah. Now, so it says that Bhakti Yoga is basically very, very simple, and we'll go to the process. What is the Bhakti Yoga process? It says in Bhagavatam, it is explained. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. What you have to do? You have to hear about Krishna. Shravanam means keep on hearing about Krishna. The more you listen, the more you will get purified, the more you will get attracted. Yeah. And then it says Kirtanam. Keep on chanting, then do Kirtan of Krishna. So do the chanting of Krishna's name, do the Kirtan of Krishna's name, Vishnu. And then Smaranam. Smaranam is remembering his pastimes, thinking about him always. Pada Sevanam. Pada Seva is basically praying to the lotus feet. Pad is feet. So Sevam is basically praying to the lotus feet of Krishna. Archanam is worshipping, decorating the deities, and then offering arti. Yeah. Vandanam is by doing prayers, by reciting prayers to Krishna. Dasyam, being his servant, doing the activity for Krishna. Sakhyam, being a friend to Krishna. Atmanivedanam, and then that is basically surrendering everything to Krishna. So what is the English translation for this? Hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 times of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming a servant, considering the Lord's one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. These are the pure devotional service. So Ananya Cheta Satatam. Satatam is not only you are chanting, but very, very important thing. Important. You are remembering me. But at the same time, you are doing your duty, whatever duty it is. Krishna said to Arjun that, yeah, you have to do your duty. So you are Ananya Cheta, although you are doing all this thing, but at the same time, you are also doing your prescribed duty, right? So Ananya Cheta Satatam Yo Mam Smarti Nitya. Those who are engrossed in remembering me again and again, then for them can easily be obtained, right? So let us read the translation of it. For one who always remember me,
For one who always remembers me,
without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Right? So, when we think about this, we think about the gopis of Vrindavan. Gopis of Vrindavan, the Gopas of Vrindavan, they were always engrossed in the talks of Krishna, thoughts of Krishna, and continue doing their duty, right? Think about the great sannyasis. They are always immersed in the thoughts of Krishna, but they keep on doing the prescribed duty, which is making people aware about Krishna and helping people grow in spiritual Krishna consciousness, right? So Anantita, then think about, and with Krishna we can actually connect to Krishna in 5 ways. We can develop the relation with Krishna in 5 ways. There are 5 ways we can. The first is what these are called rasas. These are called rasas. First is Shantarasa. Means I pray to Krishna, but it is in a Shantaras, means it is in a neutrality. I pray to Krishna, I know, but I'm neutral. I don't do any more activity. I just pray to Krishna, I admire him, and so that is called Shantaras. So when your relation with Krishna is in that form, then that particular relationship is called Shantaras. Then it's called Dasyaras. When you are a servant of Krishna, you are serving Krishna, you're doing everything for Krishna in the mode of servant. You're serving Krishna as a servant, then that is called Dasyaras. Then it's called Sakhyarasya. Sakhyar is what? When you are serving Krishna as a friend of Krishna. So we think about Sudama, which they were the Gopas who were friend of Krishna, right? So that relationship is in Dasyaras. And then Vatsalya. Vatsalya is when you consider Krishna as your child. For example, Yashoda, Devaki, and then is Madhurya Ras. Madhurya Ras is the highest. When you are in love with Krishna, the relation that you develop with Krishna is of love. That is Madhurya, like Radharani, yeah, Mirabai. They were in Madhurya Ras. They considered Krishna as their husband, right? So anyone can, when you pray to Krishna, you can actually develop your relation with Krishna in any of these forms. You can see yourself as a neutral Shantaras. You are just praying to Krishna, and you are surrendering to Krishna, or you can be a servant of Krishna, or you can be a friend of Krishna, or you can consider yourself to be, Krishna to be your child, yeah, or you can actually have a loving relationship with Krishna as a husband, yeah. So you can have that. So you can develop a relationship with Krishna in any of these ways, right? So, but Krishna says, so very important is Ananya Cheta Satatam. So we talked about, one who remembers me without deviation. Yo mam smaranti nityasha. Those who always remember, smaranti nityasha is always remembering me. Tasyaham sulabha partha. For them, I'm easily attainable. Nitya yuktasya yogina. Now, always remember, we read in the last, in the fourth chapter, we talked about, Krishna says, Ye yatha ma prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyaham. I am neither the way you surrender unto me, whatever relation with that you surrender unto me, I will actually reciprocate to you accordingly. Ye yatha mam prapadyante. Prapadyante is surrender. Ye yatha, those who yatha mam prapadyante. Mam is to me, prapadyante is surrender. In whatever way you will surrender to me, and whatever degree you surrender to me. If you are surrendering little, I will also reciprocate accordingly. He says, I am neither friend to anyone, neither I envy anyone. I am equal to all. But the way you surrender unto me, the degree you surrender to me, accordingly I accept you. Give and take is equal. So those who are smaranti nityasha, those who are always remembering, what will happen? Automatically Krishna will take them with him. So for them, what happened? Tasyaham sulabha partha. For them, it is very easy to get Krishna. Isn't it? Then there's a very interesting, in the 10th chapter, we are on 8th chapter. In the 10th chapter, Krishna says, Tesham satatyuktanam. Tesham, those who all are satatyuktanam. Satat means always, who are yuktanam, who are connected to me, who are engaged in me. Yukta is engaged in me. Tesham satatyuktanam bhajatam priti purvak. Those who are engaged with me and they are bhajatam, they are actually praying to me, they are actually doing, devotional service to me, priti purvak, with love. Priti purvak. And then a very important line, he says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. What do I do? Dadami means I give. What do I give them? Buddhi yogam. I give them the intelligence. I give them the intelligence. Tam yena mam upyadi, so that they can come to me. So we don't know anything. If you really get a connection with Krishna, and how do you get a connection with Krishna? By chanting his holy name, by hearing about Krishna, by performing devotional service to Krishna. So when in any of these forms, when you are doing this, following this, what will happen? Krishna himself, Dadami Buddhi Yogam, he will come and he will tell you, you will feel that he's telling you that, okay, do this now. So he will automatically clear path for you so that you can move forward. He himself shows you the way, as if he is holding you and taking you forward. So, dadami buddhi yogam tam. So, when you surrender completely to Krishna, you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry at all, because he himself will hold your hand and guide you. He will tell you, now you do this. He'll give you the intelligence. So even if you don't know, so these 4 shlokas are called Chatur Shloki Gita, actually 10.8, 9, 10, and 11. And the 10th shlok is, it's very, all these shloks are very important. And I use this, so Tesham Satat Yukta Nam, those who are always thinking, Satatam is always, Yukta Nam are engaged with Krishna, and they are Bhajtam Preeti Purvak, and they are also praying him with all devotional service and love. What will do? He will give you intelligence. We are too small. How can we know? So he will guide you. He will tell you. He will tell you, do this now. He will give you the intelligence. You will understand. When you're praying, you will get some flashes thinking, okay, now I must do it. This is what I should do next. So dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upadhyate. So that is to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Yeah. Now we go to the next shlok, which is 15th. It says, Mam upetya punarjanma
Mam upeti punarjanma
dukhalayam ashashvatam
dukhalayam ashashatam
na apnuvanti mahatmanah
na uvanti mahatmanam
sansiddham paramam gata.
samasiddhim paramagata
Mam upetya punarjanma
mam upetya punarjanma
dukhalayam ashashvatam
dukhalayam ashashatam
नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः
na uvanti mahatmanam
संसिद्धिं परमां गतिं
samasiddhim
परमां गताः. So now here Krishna says that those who are satat yuktanam, those who are connected to or praying to Krishna always, then what is the result that they get? What is the result that they will get? है ना? Those who are engaged in serving Krishna always, those who are engaged, then what is the result that they will get is what Krishna explains in this shlok. He says, Mam upetya punarjanma. He says, what will happen? Punarjanma. They will never take birth. Punarjanma. Those who have surrendered to me, they will not take rebirth. Huh? Dukhalayam ashashvatam. And then he talks about this material world. What is this material world? This material world is dukhalay. So what is vidyalay? Vidyalay is school, which is vidya jod alay. It's a alay means house, place. And vidya is where you learn teaching. So vidyalay is a place where you get teachings. School, that's a school, you learn, right? Similarly, Himalaya. Him is barf. Him is ice. So ale of house of is Himalaya. What is Dukhalaya? Is house of miseries. So what is this material world? This material world is house of miseries. You can never be happy. Even if you are happy, it will be a short period. It is like a pendulum. It will always be having, always it is like moving. Sukh, dukh. It is always the dualities. You will always be in fear and happiness. It will always be, you will be in those two states, right? Something, so this place is a place of miseries, and it is ashashvatam. Ashashvatam means it is temporary. It is temporary. So if you remember in the second chapter, 14th shlok, Krishna says, Matra sparshasu konteya shitoshna sukh dugdha. Krishna says that, oh Arjun, the dualities, that the happiness, distress, heat, cold, all these things are part of this dukhala. It is a part of this, and what you have to do, you cannot come out of it. You have to learn to tolerate it. Matra sparshastu konteya. Oh konteya, you have to learn to tolerate it, because this ale, this dukhale, this material world is full of dualities, and when you have learned to overcome these dualities, you become actually a sadhu. You become the sadhu. So now dukhale ashashvatam. So what is this material world? It is a dukhale, and it is ashashvatam. It is temporary. So Krishna says that when you are totally engaged in me and you are devoted, then what will happen? You will not take rebirth in this dukhale, which is ashashvatam, in this material world, which is temporary. Understood? And then he says, Napnuvanti Mahatmana Sansiddhim Paramam Gatim. And what will they achieve? They will achieve Paramam Gatim. What is Paramam Gatim? They will achieve his abode. He will achieve the Paramam, they'll get the Paramgati. What is the Paramgati? They'll achieve his abode, right? So let us read the translation. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. So this is the result that you achieve when you have strong connection with Krishna and you are engaging all your activities with to Krishna, right? And then remember in the 4th chapter we have learned that Krishna said, Jan karmcha me divyam evam yo veti tatvatah tyatva deham punarjama naiti mameti sarjuna. He says, Jan karmcha me divyam, my appearance and my activities are divyam, they are divine. Evam yo veti tatvata, and if someone can understand that tattva, then what will happen? Tyaktva deham, when they leave this deham, when they leave this material body, punarjanma naiti, they will not take rebirth. Mameti, but what will happen? They will achieve my abode. Na naiti, mameti sorjana. Oh Arjun, they will achieve my abode. So that is the paramam gati. Means gata is basically they'll go to the Krishna's abode, right? And now we go to the last shlok of today's, which is the 16th shlok. It says, A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravrtorjuna Mamupetya tu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate. A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravritano Arjuna Mam Upetya tu Kaunteya Punarjanma na Vidyate. And now he takes the whole thing Dukhalaya Shashvat to the next level. He talks about the entire lok. We know that there are 14 loks, right? Earth is in the center. Above Earth there are 6 more, and below Earth there are 7 more, right? So the 6 more are when you talk about Bhu, Bhuvas, Swa, Mahas, Janas, Tapas, and Satya. These are the lokas which is above Earth. And below Earth, you are in the going towards Narak, towards the hell, and which is Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rastala, Talatala, Mahatala, and Patal Loka. These are the lok which is that these are the 7 lok which is below Earth. Patal lok is the hell, and Swarg. When you say Bhu, Bhuva, Swa, Swa is the heaven. In many of the scriptures, in many of the religion, people don't even know above heaven what happens. For them, heaven and hell is only the limit, which is still in the material world. It is not so. So when you talk about Abrahamical religion, their knowledge is limited to hell and heaven, right? And that is in the material world. And our Sanatan Dharma, it knows in detail what happens above that and what is the spiritual world. Only following that you can actually get exposed to the spiritual world, and you will know how to go to the spiritual world. Till now, here this is a very important shlok, because Krishna says, we talked about this is Bhu, right? Bhu, that's earth. Bhu, Bhuva, Swa. Swa is Swarg, which is heaven. And then we talk about Mahas, Janas, Tapas, Satya, which is the last planet, which is called Brahma Lok, where Brahmaji stays. And Brahmaji's lok is also in the material world. Brahmaji's lok also comes in the material lok. And here Krishna says, A Brahma Bhuvana Loka. In this Bhuvan, in this entire universe, even the Brahma Loka is Punavrito Arjuna. Even in Brahma Loka, there is a rebirth. Someone who goes till, even Brahmaji has a rebirth. Brahma life is equivalent to the life of the entire Brahman, entire universe. The life of the universe is equivalent to the life of Brahma. And Krishna says, even in the Brahma Loka, you have rebirth. You have rebirth, right? Arjun, but Mam Upetya tu Kaunteya, O Arjun, Mam Upetya, but when you achieve my eternal abode, Punarjanma na Vidyate, you have to cross that this universe to come out. When you come to the spiritual realm and when you come to my eternal abode, Punarjanma na Vidyate, you will not take birth again. There is no rebirth there. Yeah. So here after this, it goes into detail about the cosmic how exactly it is. So it's very interesting. There, here he has just started explaining about the lok that we know about. We know that, as I explained, in the Abrahamical religion, we only know heaven and hell, and all these things are under the material. What do you call it? It is in the universe. It is inside the Brahman, right? And that is heaven. Even heaven, someone goes, it has to come back. You go to hell again, you have to come back in whatever form. You have to come back, right? But even to the Brahma Loka you go, the great rishis who do a lot of, those yogis who are doing that tapasya, they actually, you can go till Brahma Loka, but to go to the eternal abode, you have to surrender to Krishna, and then you go beyond that. Okay. So with this, we will actually close our today's class. If you have any questions, please WhatsApp me or write it here, and let's chant our Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.